Bruce Friedman of Adult Site Broker, and welcome to Adult Site Broker Talk, where each week we interview one of the movers and shakers of the adult industry, and we give you a tip on buying and selling websites. This week we'll be speaking with Chris Jeffrey of Saucy Time. Adult Site Broker is proud to announce the launch of our new website, Adult Site Broker 3.0, at adultsitebroker.com. The look and feel of the new site is nice and up to date and easier to navigate. The new site also has links to our affiliate program, ASB Cash, and our new blog. Speaking of ASB Cash, we've doubled our affiliate payouts. Now when you refer sellers or buyers to us at Adult Site Broker, you're going to receive 20% of our broker commission on any and all sales that result from that referral for life. You can either place a link to us on your site or refer buyers and sellers through an email introduction. ASB Cash is the first affiliate program for an adult website brokerage. Check out asbcash.com for more details and to sign up. Now let's feature our property of the week that's for sale at Adult Site Broker. We're proud to offer an amazing opportunity. If you're in the live cam, model management, or fan site space, or want to get into them, we have a private listing that may be just right for you. This company works with all major cam sites and has access to hundreds of US-based models. We're offering very limited information at the seller's request in order to maintain privacy. We anticipate multiple offers for this very rare listing. For more information, contact us at adultsitebroker.com. Now time for this week's interview. My guest today on Adult Site Broker Talk is Chris Jeffrey of Saucy Time. Chris, thanks for being with us today on Adult Site Broker Talk.
It's a pleasure, Bruce. Thanks for the invitation.
It's nice to have you. Now, Chris is a 46-year-old entrepreneur, father of 7-year-old daughter, Ella. He lives with his wife and business partner in Southeast Asia. Chris launched and operates the only 100% mobile adult web app, Saucy Time, with his wife and business partner. Following successful careers in the city, they realized life was too short and embarked upon a new chapter in their lives, deciding that London was not the best place to raise a child. So they moved out to Southeast Asia. In addition to a decade running a hedge fund, Chris has been involved in other projects, including the development of Android TV set-top boxes, the development of a 180-degree virtual reality streaming webcam platform, among other ventures. Chris is also executive director of the VR Guys, a virtual reality software development company. Saucy Time is the first and only webcam platform specifically designed for mobile use. Launched in 2012, it has over 180,000 members and features around 100 models. Originally only available for Apple devices, their platform now also supports Android. Saucy Time is one of the most competitive platforms on the market. Recruitment is via invitation and referral only. So, Chris, why don't you tell us a bit about your background in the adult industry?
It was pretty limited. During your introduction, you mentioned that I ran a hedge fund. I actually recruited for hedge funds. Just to be clear. So my role was as a recruitment consultant, finding guys to work for hedge funds. I think if I had my own hedge fund, we probably wouldn't be having this conversation.
This is true.
My experience was pretty much limited to lurking the streets of Soho, in London, at sort of 3 a.m. Perusing the shelves of the adult video stores that existed back then. Don't know if you've ever been to London or at that time, but you remember the video stores. I think legally they weren't allowed to call themselves adult video stores. It was a video store, and then you had this sort of Aladdin's cave at the back with, colourful sort of, paper drapes, and you'd sneak in through there, and that's where you'd find all of the latest VHS all of the latest VHS videos. So, yeah, and funnily enough, I remember going into these stores and on unsuccessful nights back in the 90s, and sliding sort of 20 quid over after a little bit of time, making a decision about what my viewing pleasure was going to be for that evening in solitude, and wondering, how did this guy end up getting this job? He's peddling porn, and we are 30 years later. I'm the sort of modern version of that guy. So I worked in the city, as I mentioned. I had no real interest, to be perfectly honest, beyond that. Beyond, like anybody else, I didn't have an unhealthy interest in pornography. That wasn't what drove me into the industry. It was completely by accident. Completely by accident, yeah.
So how did Saucy Time get started?
I saw an opportunity, I suppose. I think, the webcam industry had already been in existence for a decade or so, streaming video websites and so on. And it seemed like a fairly sort of closed shop. And I'm sure a lot of these companies, hugely successful, much more successful, I'm sure, than we are.
There are big ones,
millions of members. It sort of occurred to me that the direction that entertainment itself was heading was into mobile. The iPhone, I remember seeing the iPhone for the first time and hearing about this thing called FaceTime. Wasn't sure if it would take off or not, until my now wife, showed me a call that she was having with her brother. As the pickup started, people started to buy iPhones, and I was just blown away by this like mobile to mobile connection. Yeah, you didn't need your phone number. You could do it via an email address. The quality was amazing. It sort of it stuck in my head. And like any business ideas, or at least, those that are made on the back of a beer mat. I was having a pint with a friend of mine, and as I mentioned, I ran a technology recruitment consultancy for hedge funds. So, I had access to the best and brightest technologists, and a lot of these guys that I'd found jobs for, I became friends with, and I'd regularly meet them out for drinks. My friend told me the iPad 2 was coming out and that it was due to have FaceTime, and I thought, Apple are serious about this, right? It's not a feature that's going to go away. They're putting their weight behind it. So, is there a way that we could take this concept of mobile to mobile and apply it in webcam setting? Is that going to be possible? So I got on the phone to another friend of mine, who was, he's a ex-Microsoft genius. He was in his 20s at the time, and he was a director. And I said to him, look, I've had this idea. I've already run it past this one friend of mine. But as you know, obviously, different people have different roles and different skill sets in technology. So Will was the guy who I thought, okay, he's going to be able to answer these questions. So I said, look, if I take you and a few of your guys out for beers, could you give me an hour of your time? Could we, I've had an idea for a business, and I just want to run it past you. See,
it's amazing what beers will buy.
It's incredible, isn't it? It's incredible. We all got together in this. It was funny. I went over to their head office, this blue chip. I won't mention the company name, but it was a blue chip company, household name. And this guy is the technical director or director of the particular group. And he pulls a couple of guys into the boardroom. and he's got, the whiteboard up there and process flow diagrams. And he's like, go and grab, the database guys. The database guy comes in, and all of a sudden, for the price of a few beers, I've got this sort of group of very highly skilled and experienced tech guys explaining how they can make my idea work, how it could be put together. That was it. It was seeing FaceTime for the first time. It was realizing that Apple had a fantastic video streaming platform that was only going to get better. That I knew that that's only get better, right? They're going to continue investing in it. So it's always going to be the best on the market. And if it was possible to piggyback onto that, this was a potentially feasible business opportunity.
Sure. So with no background in the industry, no name or established brand, how did you go about recruiting models?
At that time, Twitter was a different place, and there were two things really. There was Twitter and there was bribery. Because first of all, the iPad 2 had only just come out, and I had a friend of mine who happened to work for Apple, not on the retail side, but he worked for Apple. And the iPad 2 is just about to be released. And this was at the time when you'd get queues of people outside the store,
Sure.
really excited about.
They still do.
Do they still do that?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I'm surprised because the innovation seems to have slowed a little bit. I don't
still got your Apple fanboys. I hate to say it, but I'm kind of one too. So
you're not in a tent the night before, though, are you?
Oh hell no. I'm not nuts, but I have been in a line before. Let's put it that way.
Okay. You're running out of the store, brandishing your new purchase.
No, I just remember when the iPhone 12 came out, I had to stand in line to pay them. That's the only line I've stood in, which kind of bugged me. But anyway, go ahead.
I spoke to my friend at Apple. I said, look, I need to get hold of these iPad 2s. How am I going to? Can you get me one on the day? Well, I need a bit more than one. He's like, well, how many do you need? I said, well, kind of 10. Right? And he said, that they're going to sell out just on the day. He said, but if you're a business customer of Apple's, you just register as a business with Apple, then you can pre-order.
Right.
Yeah, you can pre-order your devices, unlimited number, registered with Apple as a business, place the order. I should mention at this point that the funding for the project sort of was partly due to my wife's belief in the product, in the idea, because obviously, 10 iPads are not cheap.
Sure.
But yeah, she put those on her credit card, so we've got 10 iPads. So then it was a case of, okay, let's go on to Twitter and let's start talking to these girls and see if they'd be interested in joining our startup, not guaranteeing them huge amounts of business, but they get a free iPad. Yeah, if they stay with us for a certain amount of time,
Cool.
I mean, not, you get one and run. We made sort of connections and made real life connections as well, because obviously being in London, we'd meet up with my wife, tell the girls about the idea, get a few of the girls together, and it became like this nice sort of community of 10 girls, some of which are still with us actually. Yeah, hopefully not working with the same iPad, but just because we had an adult business, I wanted to treat it like any other business, and recruitment was part of that.
Well, you certainly knew recruitment, right?
I didn't see why it should be any different. And
No.
all of the other webcam sites seem to be register here to become a model. Now, just
Yeah.
because you own a webcam doesn't necessarily mean that you're a webcam model. I
Right.
mean, I suppose in principle, in theory it does, but not really. I mean,
Right.
we were looking for published models when publishing was a thing,
Mm-hmm.
and we had a bit of a partnership with Loaded, and that
Mm-hmm.
gave us a name to piggyback off.
Very
So
good.
we had a partnership with this men's magazine,
Hmm.
and we did a deal with them where we'd do a shoot, we provide the girls. That's how we managed to get the talent. But we're running a 24-hour operation.
Sure.
Now, the notifications for the bookings are delivered via SMS.
Mm-hmm.
So these girls were fantastic. So they'd sleep with their phones in their bras. So to cover the US market, with their phone on vibrate, if they got a booking, because bookings were few and far between in the beginning,
Right.
then they'd get an alert, quickly send a text message, "Oh, just give me a second, honey," as they wake up at 4 a.m, and
Jeez.
they do a call.
Cool.
And it was thanks to them and their hard work the business actually managed to take off, because there were girls online,
Yeah.
and
Sure.
because I think there was good faith there, because obviously we trusted them with a £500 device,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Definitely.
it was reciprocated. And as I say, some of those girls are still with us now.
Great. So, in your experience, how have customer preferences changed during the last decade, and how have you adjusted?
If we go back further than even further than a decade, I can only
Hmm.
talk from my personal experience. We're there or thereabouts in terms of generation, so
Hmm.
you'll get what I'm talking about. But we had a
Sure.
newspaper in the UK called the Sun,
Hmm.
and we also had one called the Daily Star, like
Right.
like a red top tabloid
Big
newspaper.
time. Yeah.
And at the time, before everybody got so bloody serious, used to have page three girls. My friend's dad was a reader of the Daily Star.
Hmm.
So I'd nip over to my friend's house to leaf through the back editions of page 7, and that was our kind of pornography of the time. Then obviously, as you get a bit older, it escalated to magazines, yeah,
Right.
and then to VHS, and there was
Hmm.
a nice sort of storyline. The postman turns up, and the housewife bends over, and yeah, it's just very, very corny now when you look back. But at the time, it was, you'd sit there and watch it.
Hasn't changed that much.
What's going to happen next? But hasn't it? Because I mean, I'm not.
Porn hasn't. I mean,
Yeah,
there's still a lot of the pizza guy and the pool
oh,
guy,
okay.
and
Oh, okay.
I always joke when our pool guy gets here. I said, "Here's the most famous porn actor in the world."
I was under the misapprehension that porn had changed from those sort of storylines very much in the same way as TikTok and YouTube shorts, to just being
Somewhat,
bang
yeah,
action.
somewhat, but not completely.
Okay. So in terms of how consumer tastes have developed, I think
Hmm.
people have seems to have done a little bit of a 180, because you know people wanted more and more and more and more, but then
Hmm.
decided, maybe got to a point where they realized that gynecology wasn't for them, and actually they preferred something a little more, that had a little of you know the illusion of romance or some sexual attraction. you could be the postman type, or the pool guy, Bruce's pool guy. One can only dream, right? But in order to compete, the porn industry seems to be releasing more and more and more graphic and misogynistic sort of, porn.
True.
And I think tastes have now shifted away from that a little bit, because
in the Me Too era, sure.
Yeah, that also. I think that guys now want to feel that there is a connection between them and the performer. And whilst I felt there was a connection between myself and, a black and white photo of Samantha Fox, famous Page 3 girl, for 30 or 40 years ago. I wasn't 7. I just thought that.
You sure?
Maybe. They felt a connection between them and the performer. And I guess that's, your POV type thing, and why that's popular. We want our customers to feel a connection with the performer. You know, a lot of webcam that some of them may make is that they think that, the guys are only interested in seeing their bits. That's it.
Another British term I'm going to steal. They're bits.
And they're naughty bits. They're naughty bits.
Got it.
So in order, to get that sort of dopamine dump, that first kiss. If you meet somebody for the first time, you go on a first date, the exciting bit is not necessarily the sex, right? It's the anticipation. It's the lead up to the sex. It's the, sharing.
I think I remember.
Yeah, it's been a while for me as well.
Yep.
I've been married a long time, but
I saw you sent me a picture of you and your lovely wife, and yes, I can understand.
Yeah, not for any untoward reasons, though. That's not my sin.
No, she was clothed.
The excitement is the lead up. Is she? Isn't she? That the kiss.
It's like a virtual girlfriend.
Right. That is exactly what we wanted to create, emulate. Is not okay. I need to see a vagina. It's I've had a shitty day. My friends are all out with their girlfriends or whatever.
Right.
I want to get home from work. I want to pour myself a glass of wine, and I'm going to see who's available on Saucy Time. Or I'm
going to talk to Stacy, because that's the one that I like, right?
Exactly. Yeah, if I know that Stacy's available, I'm going to talk to Stacy. Yeah, we're going to have a chat, and it may not even result in. And this is again one of the things that surprised me. I think was that a lot of the time it is just that.
It's just a conversation. It's not necessarily leading to the guy jerking off. I get it.
No.
So from what I understand, you operate a flat rate for all models. Now, does this not include performers that operate at a higher rate?
The value that a performer puts upon themselves is really sort of based upon what people are prepared to pay.
Sure.
Now, a lot of these models have been on TV, they've been in magazines, and they have hardcore fans. And those hardcore fans are prepared to pay $10, $15, $20, the whole sort of, cash cow type movement. That's why it exists. It's because, these guys get, these guys get sort of semi-obsessed with these models. But I'm sorry, that doesn't mean that that's what Joe Blogs, who's never heard of you, is going to be prepared to pay to listen to you speak. You're not Warren Buffett. It's like,
and I quite frankly, I wouldn't want to see him naked, to be honest with you.
I don't know. If he was paying me, I'd do it.
It would have to be a lot.
No, I'd undercut your rate. No problem at all watching Warren Buffett get naked. But no, I mean, there was, this is somebody whose time is really valuable. And, he has his rate very same as motivational speakers, although I'm not a big fan of that industry. But, celebrities, let's say, for instance.
Right.
So that's a great example. So celebrities, just one Big Brother. Yeah. Market rate per hour is X, £1,000, big rider, £1,000 an hour, big rider, big name, blah, blah, blah. Same as the influencers, they all have their value. But when it comes to camming, if there aren't really any sort of household cam girl names, really, it's a very, very large.
You've got your more successful ones, but you're probably right.
Yeah, of course, but it's not like your Jenna Jameson, of the webcam industry.
Yeah, agreed.
So what I tell these girls is, look, when we explain our rate structure to them, I mean, they get paid the. Do you think that we're providing a charitable service here? Are we spending, thousands of pounds on advertising and marketing and driving new business to our site so we can pay you 100% of the call value? Of course not, right? It's a business and we have costs that we need to meet. How many of these £5 per minute bookings do you get in an hour? Oh, well, I'll get maybe one an hour. How long? 5 minutes, something like that.
Sure.
Okay. So in the hour, you're basically being paid $25. Is that right? Yeah.
Right.
Okay. How about you work the full hour and you got paid £60, £70, whatever. Right? That's how we tackle that. Is
interesting.
It's the elasticity, I suppose.
So people book the models by the hour?
Not some do, but mostly by the minute. The pattern normally is when we bring a new model into the site, the people that haven't been with us for a while will book the minimum amount of time possible, which is £10. Yeah, so for that £10, they'll get a 5 minute call, and then because they want to make sure that this isn't a photo that was taken in 1986, right?
Imagine that.
Yeah, like that ever happens. It's like dating profiles, right?
Exactly.
So they want to make sure that this is the same person, this is the right person, and also that they're going to get along. Most of our girls are English. Well, they're all English speaking, native English speakers or fluent English speakers. But, there are other sites that employ girls from different areas, and perhaps, the humor isn't the same. They don't have the same common interests, don't watch the same soap operas, don't listen to the same music, that sort of thing. So 5 minutes is enough, for them. You
understand.
Want see pussy? Yeah. Okay. Thank you for your time. With our girls, they will book longer calls, but they also sort of sometimes overestimate their staying power, as it were.
Sure.
They'll book a 20-minute call, and maybe it won't last the full 20 minutes because somebody's had a whoopsie. There's another English term, another English term for you. Somebody's had a little slip.
You don't offer tipping. Is there a reason for that?
Yes. Because, and again, it goes back to the human connection. It's like being on Harvey Nick's 5th floor and realizing that the girl that you've been talking to for the last hour, that's laughed at all your jokes, and is stunning, likes nice things and maybe wants a present, you know. And then you realize it all becomes about money, and then it spoils it all, right? And
it's a good
yes,
point, but that is what it's all about to the models.
well, it is and it isn't, because they want to enjoy their job.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, and it's like they're not performing animals at a circus, you know.
True.
These are like anybody, you know. If you got a shitty boss, or you got shitty co-workers or shitty customers, you're not going to enjoy what you do.
Sure.
But if you're in an environment where the customers are nice to you, they're interested in you, in reverse, you know, that mutual sort of respect and interested, if that's reciprocated, and again, you know, it comes back to the personality of the performer. You know, they need to be engaging, and it's not about, you know, you got to be engaging because we've got to bleed this customer dry. Doesn't matter if it's a 5-minute call, as long as it's the best 5 minutes of that guy's day, we've done our job, you know.
Oh, sure.
And if she's good at her job, then he's going to divert some of his disposable income away from, you know, video games, or, you know, going to the pub, into spending a little bit of time with her. Sure, he understands that she's being paid for it, but unlike Skype, which is very much, you know, talking to granny and granddad in Australia, that's not very sexy for me. You know, for me, you know, being at the family PC and trying to position the wobbly webcam, and, you know, dropping your trousers, and it's like the old joke, what's the most sensitive part of your body when you're masturbating? Your ears. Being at the sort of family PC where you pay your bills, and then, you know, streaming into a live chat and all this sort of, that's not a very personal thing. But when was the last time you used FaceTime for business? When was the last time you used FaceTime for anything other than talking to people that you want to talk to? It's your phone.
Sure.
It's locked away. There's no web history. You know, there's nothing to disguise. People don't share their phones. Yeah, and the girls are encouraged and will send a text message on a Thursday afternoon and say, you know, hey, you know, hey, Billy, did you get the promotion you were talking about? You told me about last week. Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Part of that is a sales call, but part of that is a sales pitch, I suppose. But part of it is also, you know, you remembered that this guy had a promotion and you probably wanted him to get it, you know?
Yeah. Exactly.
And that's the disconnect.
It makes them at least feel that they care.
But yeah, I mean, you say feel that they care, but I do think that they in some cases, and it varies from girl to girl, and it's probably the reason why we only have 100 girls and not 1,000 girls, is because the girls that we've chosen very, very carefully.
Yes.
We've taken time to make sure that, you know, they're not, you know, these man-hating, you know, you're my cash pig. I want to do an ATM meet, you know, sort of daddy issues type, you know, type background, and not just in it for the money, because that's not, you know, that's not what it's about. Give the guy a few extra minutes, you know.
Sure.
When the 5 minutes is up, don't end the call. Don't hang up on him.
Right.
You know, tell him he's running out of time. Maybe he'll stick another few minutes on. Maybe he needs another couple of minutes. Give him another couple of minutes. You know, it's no skin off your nose. He'll come back to you. It will pay off. You know,
it's nice to see. It's nice to see a company have that attitude, because I know that your competitors don't. What do you think makes for a successful cam model?
Well, I think that depends upon the platform. For the big sites. Obviously, it's going to be big social media presence, endorsements, marketing, expos. That's I suppose on that level how you would determine success. Being very, very sort of very visible, very profitable. What makes a good one? It's really simple. I'm sure you're familiar with the term, although again, it's another English term, banter.
I love it. What is it?
Banter.
Oh yeah, no, that's actually used in the U.S. too. That's good.
Yeah, you got there a bit late. Then we've been saying it longer than you. We invented it.
You've been saying everything longer than us.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, but I often joke that I talk to someone from the UK. I say, speak English. Anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and I also think personality. I mean, if you want my opinion, I think it's personality, which goes along with banter.
Exactly right. Yeah, that is. Yeah, banter encapsulates quite a broad range of characteristics. It's not about necessarily being the most quick-witted. Yeah, banter as in, I mean, like a good salesperson, has to not be, and I think there are differences between American salespeople and British salespeople.
Oh, sure.
The American model I prefer because they're like, right, let's get down to business. What's the bottom line? They want to do business. They want to get things done.
You know what? I kind of disagree with that because as someone who sold radio advertising for 21 years, and I've really always been in sales. You're in sales when you have your own company. I've always believed in establishing relationships with the people. And I think if you establish rapport, banter, if you will, and relationships with the people that you are dealing with, then, it makes you better. Okay. And it makes the people, just like you talk about with the models, it makes people realize that you care. And I do care. I always have. And I've never looked at somebody as just a dollar sign. I look at them as someone that I can help in some way. And I try to help people in my current business, an adult site broker, even if we don't end up doing business. If I see something on their site that I think needs help, I'll make a comment or I'll suggest something. And, well, that also leads into our general consulting company if they need that much help. But at the same time, it's all about helping. And if you're helping, then you're going to do business.
Well, ask me how many podcasts I've been involved.
I know you said this was your first one.
One, right? Yours.
Yes.
How many people do I know that sell or broker adult website sales?
I don't know.
One.
Probably me.
Just you.
Yes.
Why is that? I'm not looking to sell my website
yet.
Oh my God, this is the long sell, isn't it?
Of course it is. Come on, man. Why do you think I do this podcast? It's a promotional vehicle.
It's not. It's a scam. You're going to just put. I bet you're not even recording this. It's just going in the bin. You're just going to try and.
You're funny. Go ahead.
It's the long con. It's the long con. I've fallen for it.
Whatever you say.
Yeah. Do you remember you were on my? You'll be. 2 weeks later, you're going to call me up and you're going to say, hey, you know what? You did fantastic on the podcast. We were number one on the Apple charts, but can't see it because it's, adult. So, but I've got the figures and let's do a follow up. And then, and then the next thing you know, you're going to come in hard. Once you got my complete trust,
I never come in hard. Sure. I never come in hard except in the bedroom. So, so Chris, what do you feel are the biggest challenges faced by the cam industry today?
Probably going to be deep fakes, maybe. I mean, we're talking long term here.
Sure.
deep fakes, the sort of, avatars. I mean, I don't think you can ever, Mark Zuckerberg would lead us to believe that, we can recreate human relationships by having these, smiley, happy, dancy
he's
avatars.
a bot.
Yeah,
he's a bot, so he's a good example.
He's a robot. Yeah, he's a strange guy. It's weird that his avatar does look like him, though. It's like they created the avatar before they created him.
They did.
Technology will never replace the human-to-human contact without the interference of, I wouldn't say interference, or enhancement of technology. So, potentially sort of deep fakes. Why talk to Jenna from Essex when you can design your perfect image of a woman, or a man, or whatever? And that's something that I'd like to come on to actually before we finish speaking. There's one thing that I really want to get across to you, but I'll come to that.
Okay.
So you've got deep fakes, you've got AI, you've got all of these technologies that are available. And I think they could potentially pose a threat to the webcam industry. As I said, if you can create, there's an 80s video, I can't remember the name of it, but where they did actually manage to create the perfect woman. Do you remember the name of the film?
No, I don't.
This is the 1980s. It was a little ahead of its time, but they created on their computer.
Not ahead of my time.
It was ahead of its time because they were using a computer in the 80s to design an AI model, which was pretty remarkable foresight or luck. You've got this photorealistic image, and because it's an AI, it's gonna know that you got, your promotion was on Thursday. It's gonna know when your birthday is. You're gonna get text messages saying, "Hey, it's Candy. I'm sending you a boob shot," or something like this. And this could all be done by computers.
Yeah.
Doesn't require any human interaction.
This is true.
So that would be my biggest fear. We looked at VR. We sort of touched, you mentioned that in the introduction. And we actually created a streaming platform for VR. And it worked.
Yeah.
But despite what we believed, nobody was interested. They weren't interested. They would rather use their phone and have a FaceTime call than be able to get a 180 degree. And we spent time, just getting the aspect ratio correct.
Who wasn't interested, the model or the user?
The users. They just didn't, either we didn't know how to reach them. And I'm sure they're out there. I'm sure there are lots of guys with VR, but VR didn't really take off as I thought it would. I mean, when I first,
not yet. You're right.
Experienced.
It's been slow.
When I first experienced VR, I was just like, nobody's going to buy a PlayStation again. Computer software,
right?
Or rather, game development for PC. You may as well fire everyone and get them trained up on 3D modeling and virtual reality and these sorts of tools, because this is madness. Like, I'm in the game. This is great.
Yeah, right.
And I still don't get it. I still don't get why people. I mean, you've also got Facebook behind it, which is one of the biggest companies in the world, and they can't give the stuff away. Like, nobody's.
Yeah. I think it has a lot to do with the hardware and how clunky it is. And quite frankly, I don't like having to wear that headset to take in content. I bought one, and
which one did you get? Oculus?
Yeah, the Oculus. I bought the Oculus, and I've only used it a couple times. I just got to tell you, it just doesn't feel natural, and I think a lot of people are the same way, and they just haven't gotten enough hardware into people's hands to get critical mass. And I think that's the biggest problem with VR so far.
Sorry, when you say they haven't got enough hardware, are you talking about processing power, or are you talking about?
No, I'm talking about the headsets. There's just not enough in people's hands yet. And if you compare that to how many people who have phones, it isn't even close. So to make something totally VR doesn't make sense, because there's just not, to me, there's not enough of a market for it. Now, some pay sites have done well with VR. Some are doing extremely well.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know if the same would carry over for cams. It's really difficult to tell. And you, like you said, your experience hasn't been the best. So
the reason we didn't push it out as aggressively as we would have liked to is because the actual camera hardware, the webcams weren't up to scratch. You know, you've got problems when you're shooting VR video.
Right.
So they're either ridiculously expensive, you know, $6,000.
That's the other side of it. You've got to get those in the hands of all the models, and it becomes cost prohibitive because of the very tight profit margins.
Exactly.
For cams. So that makes it even harder than the pay site. So I think it's going to be a long time before it's there, and the hardware costs are going to have to come way down on both ends. And it's just, I don't know. I don't see it anytime soon. So what did you say the other challenge was?
Also, OnlyFans as well.
Of course.
OnlyFans, I think, and this is another thing that I don't get. You know, I suppose, you know, we all base our opinions on our own sort of, you know, judgment calls. But just in the same way that, you know, if somebody told me 3 years ago that a company was going to come along and they were basically going to charge customers to access videos of models, and they were going to pay a subscription for that, and a decent number of these girls were going to become millionaires within a day. I just wouldn't have believed it, particularly as, I was just amazed at the number of, I suppose the number of people that would be prepared to pay to see pictures, which, you know, they could they could find similar pictures on the internet, but they pay a sort of subscription. And I'm just, to be honest, Bruce, I'm just really jealous that it wasn't my idea.
Well, tell me about it. I think there's many people that feel that way. Yeah, the bottom line on it is there's absolutely no end to what a virtual girlfriend will bring about to a man. And that's what OnlyFans, that's the power of OnlyFans and all the similar sites. So, Chris, I'd once again like to thank you for being our guest today on Adult Site Broker Talk. And I hope we'll get a chance to do this again soon.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure talking to you, Bruce. A really interesting chat.
Pleasure is all mine. My broker tip today is part 7 of what to do to make your site more valuable for when you decide to sell it later. Last week, we talked about trademarking your site and ways to make it unique. Next, when you decide to sell your website, make sure you have the following information available for potential buyers: detailed information about your company, your website, and any other aspects of your operation that the potential buyers may want to find out about. This should include, for a pay site, a detailed inventory of your content, number of images, and number of videos. How much of it is exclusive and how much is non-exclusive. Financial information for at least the last 3 years if your company is that old. This should include sales reports, profit and loss statements, and billing reports. Get all the information organized in a legible format that a good broker can use to sell your property. If you decide to sell it yourself, organize a list of potential buyers and start the process of contacting them. Be realistic about what your company is worth. In today's market, the kiss of death is overpricing your property. Is there anything that a potential buyer needs to know, such as, are you being sued? Do you have any substantial debts, etc.? Don't let these things be a surprise to the potential buyer. They'll either find out before the sale and not buy, or they'll find out after the sale and you'll have another lawsuit on your hands. Disclose everything. We'll talk about this subject more next week. And next week we'll be speaking with performer Christina Castilla. And that's it for this week's Adult Site Broker Talk. I'd once again like to thank my guest, Chris from Saucy Time. Talk to you again next week on Adult Site Broker Talk. I'm Bruce Friedman.